Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Salatu Salam ala Rasulullah. Brothers, welcome. Hope you guys doing well. This today is a bit of a somber note. I was recently going to Google, looking up some crime cases, and I come across the death of Robert Arthur Selby Lowe, who was a reviled killer in Australia. He passed away in 2021. 30 years ago, he abducted and killed a very young girl in Melbourne. This is 1991. At the time of disappearance, I was 9 years old. I remember, for some reason, I remember it very, very well. Even though I was 9 years old, the girl who was killed was Sheree Beasley. She was about 3.5 years younger than me. And I remember I remember the day just after the abduction. Everyone's a bit, because this is at the time, we had a few of these guys operating in Melbourne, a few disappearances, abductions and stuff. And this one, early on, you get the terrible feeling in your guts that it was not going to look good. So it wasn't going to end well. You just had that feeling. And hearing of Robert's death last month. It sort of reminded me of some of the feelings at the time when this happened. Melbourne was getting over some pretty serious attacks, some pretty serious crime back in the late 80s, early 90s. And to have this happen in a quiet area, I think it was Rosebud. So to have it happen there, so I still bring back some memories, some unpleasant memories of the time. So I remember the case very well in the days after the abduction. You just tell it wasn't going to end well. You just knew, you hope you're going to be wrong, but you just had that feeling of this is not going to be a good outcome, to put it mildly. And unfortunately, it was the worst one. So anyway, this guy, Robert Lowe, was born in England in 1937. From a fairly middle-class family. He got into minor scrapes, and he stole a car at age 19 and injured a police officer as well. He managed to get away with that charge mostly because of connections in the family. When he was about 20, his family moved to New Zealand. It's a bit of a fresh start. And Robert couldn't keep out of trouble. He was always in trouble with some obscene acts. He was eventually jailed for a short time in New Zealand. We had a longer record building. And then Robert had a chance to move to Australia. So he moved here. Not sure how old he was when he really came here, but he moved to Australia. And for all intents and purposes, Robert seemed to settle down. He met Lorraine. He got married to Lorraine, a very pious lady. So Robert became very involved with the church as well with Lorraine. Lorraine's very, very religious, heavily involved in the church. And Robert Lowe became involved in that too. And the couple had 2 sons. So, for all intents and purposes, Robert was doing really well for himself here. He had a good job as a travelling salesman. He had a wife and 2 kids, had a house, the suburban dream sort of thing. Everything's pretty much working out pretty well. So if you look at it, you think, oh, yeah, he's doing pretty well for himself over here. He's turned his life around a little bit, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, unknown to most people, he was still offending, but just very, very... He had his life there, wife and kids, job, church elder, cricket coach. After hours, he had his other nocturnal activities where he used to... I don't want to go into it too much. He used to do lewd acts and quite obscene behaviour and sexual offending. So he still was involved in that. At this stage of his path, he wasn't really into. From what I know, he wasn't really involved in serious attacks. He was mostly involved in how do you put it? More obscene behaviour. Not physical, just obscene behaviour, like doing certain things in public we shouldn't be doing to, pardon me, doing certain things in public we shouldn't be doing to underage people. So he was like just very much always doing obscene stuff, just weird stuff, making silly comments at people, making just hanging around swimming pools, public toilets, just doing very bizarre stuff. So he's caught multiple times, but each time he was recommended to therapy, slap on the wrist. Oh, that's a bit strange. Oh, well, off you go. You should be right. And he began seeing a psychotherapist, Margaret Hobbs, her name was. She's quite a smart lady. She's very good at her job. And Dr. Hobbs, she thought this guy is very strange. She actually recommended him to receive a custodial prison sentence for a short time to try and curb his behaviour. She could probably see it escalating a bit. Even though at this stage it wasn't physical stuff, it was more like just obscene exposure. But she thought this is a bit of a pattern here. It needs to be monitored, and probably he needs to go to jail for a short time to show him he can't keep doing it. Slap on the wrist, good behaviour bond, off you go. So she was quite on the ball with that. Everyone else seemed to go, oh, don't know, but she was quite on the ball. So, and after a period of time, he still kept going what he was doing. Got caught here and there. The strange thing was, even though he wouldn't stop his behaviour, Margaret was she was quite convinced he was something wasn't quite right there. And in 91, I think it's 29th of June, or 26th, maybe it might be the 29th of June 1991. That's when Sheree was kidnapped in Rosebud, riding her bicycle. So, and someone saw her in the passenger seat of a car being driven away. She was quite distressed. That's right. That's what I remember. So I was thinking, oh, this is not sounding good. Unfortunately, our worst fears were confirmed, and she was in fact, found deceased later on. I'm not going to go into the crime, guys. It's quite disturbing. So I'm not going to go into what he actually did. It's quite disturbing. To summarise, he kidnapped the young girl, and unfortunately later on I won't go into it, but it's quite disturbing. So he actually killed the young girl as well. And Robert's one of these guys who had no remorse. He just did go, he's pretty happy what he did. He's pretty proud of himself for what he did. He had no remorse at all for killing someone. He thought he was quite smart doing that. He had no compunction about telling people how good he was, how smart he was. Margaret Hobbs, the doctor, the therapist, pretty much straight away knew it was him. So she anonymously tipped off police. I think my client is involved. I think you might look for Robert Lowe, who could be involved in this. So she tipped off the police, and they bugged her rooms, her clinic, where he was still going. And she was very good at coaxing information out of Robert. And Robert eventually, at the start, he was denying it. So, no, it wasn't me. I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about it. Later on, he started sort of giving hints that it was him. So, again, there's pretty disturbing hints as well. So I won't go into them for the sake of So Robert was giving hints to Margaret Hobbs that he was involved in the killing. He sort of in a joking sort of way. He thought it was quite funny what he was trying to do. Robert Lowe enjoyed the cat and mouse game with authorities, with Margaret Hobbs, and so he enjoyed he thought it was quite thrilling that they're trying to catch him, but his mind is too smart for him. He's not going to be caught. He actually took Margaret Hobbs out to the scene of where, after the young girl passed away, he took her to the scene of where she was found. And he was quite proud of what he did. He had no remorse about it. Didn't say it was him, but he showed exactly, only he could know what was happening there. So the clues he was giving away were quite obvious it was actually him. So he liked to put the idea out there, yes, it was me, but no, you won't catch me for it. That's how he operated. The police interviews was exactly the same. He was arrogant, cocky, you couldn't pin him down, he was quite elusive, good manipulator, good liar. So unfortunately, his wife actually started to say, hang on, what the hell happened here? His wife actually thought it was him too. She divorced, she kicked him out of the house. Lowe was sacked from his job for the same sort of thing. So after 2 years of pretty much painstaking investigative work, Lowe was arrested for the crime in 1993. While in prison, he approached a gentleman. He approached a guy called Peter Reed, who was a pretty nasty character himself. Peter Reed's a known rat. He always rats people out. But at the same time, Peter Allen Reed, I think his name was, who killed a police officer himself back in 1982. And so Peter Reed sort of befriended Lowe a little bit. Lowe started telling him in detail what actually happened. And obviously Lowe was quite proud of what he did. He was laughing about it. Thought it was a bit of fun. Not fun. He thought it was quite smart. He wouldn't be caught for it. So Peter Reed actually helped police with inquiries and gave police a very detailed information on what happened on the lead up to the events and after the event. So Peter Reed testified against Lowe in court, and Lowe went on trial in 1994. He pleaded not guilty. After the evidence was, especially after Peter Reed's evidence, Lowe was found guilty of the crime. And Justice Phil Cummins, who passed away too, unfortunately, but Judge Philip Cummins asked Lowe to be removed from the courtroom for a while before he considered a sentence. So Lowe was brought back into the courtroom later on, and Justice Phil Cummins sentenced Robert Lowe to life without possibility of parole. At that stage, in 1994, I think it was, 95, Robert Lowe, I think, became the third prisoner ever in Victoria's history to have life never to be released. So Robert Lowe was given life without parole. He appealed that. It was dismissed. So he went into Ararat prison, where it's mostly the scum of society hidden there. He was hidden away in there. And so Robert Lowe, into his dying day, he had no remorse for what he did. He probably thinks he's the victim for being locked up. So, yeah, Robert Lowe died in November 2021, so he died a month ago. I didn't know about it. I found it on Google. I was like, oh, he's passed away. So he died at 84. So he died in the Ararat prison, and that concludes the life of Robert Lowe. No big loss there. I don't speak ill of the guy. He's not here, but at the same time, there'd be no tears for him at all. I don't think anyone really cares what happens to him. I mean, he lived to age 84, so yeah, but who cares about him anyway? So this is mostly in remembrance of Sheree Beasley as well. 1985 to 1991, so 6 years old. That's a terrible waste of life. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. So I just thought I'd share with you guys also didn't go into detail about the crimes because it's not something I feel comfortable talking about. I know some guys will go into it. You can go on online, look at it and see with the case itself, but I'm not going to go into detail about the actual crime itself. It's pretty people who have kids out there, which I don't, people who do have kids, it's quite disturbing. So if you want to look at it yourself, you can. But I'm not going to go into the actual details of the crime itself, the actual killing and the circumstances. I was going to go into the actual, so I won't go into details there. But, so Robert Lowe died this year, so that's a bit bad luck. But, so it's mostly about Sheree, memory of Sheree as well. I think it's February 25, 1985 to June 29, 1991. So just not even 6.5 years old. Just absolutely horrendous circumstance, that. So remember her as well. When you think about it, it's important to remember the victims more than the actual perpetrator. I'm just going into detail about this guy, so because hearing about his death sort of reminded me of those times back in the early 90s, where it was quite quite a bizarre time in Melbourne. I was only 9 years old, but I remember it quite well, unfortunately. So, rest in peace to Sheree Beasley. Keep her in your prayers. Keep her in your prayers always. Guys, that's about it. I'm going to wrap it up now. I just thought I'd talk to you about this case that I remember very well as a young man. I'm sure everyone has a kid, everyone had children back then, or young girls in that time in the early 90s would have remembered this case quite well, amongst other ones. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to if you like the video, if you want to hit the subscribe as well, that's very, very good if you can. If you don't, that's if you watch it, I much appreciate it anyway, okay? Appreciate it very much, guys, all your time you spend watching the videos. Right, guys, take care of yourselves, talk to you soon, and as always, salam, peace.